Welcome to this episode of Becoming an Elite Financial Advisor. My name is Sten Morgan. I'm a financial advisor like you. The purpose of this podcast is to help you recognize and reach your full potential faster. Today, we get to hang out with Ben Crane, professional golfer, and we're going to talk about swing thoughts. How does mindset and thinking affect those that are operating at a really high level, whether it's in golf or business? My hope is that from this episode, you will have takeaways that you realize you need to have a team around you, you need to have accountability at all times, and that the best athletes are always still working to grow. That at some point you are so successful that you actually get more humble, and that allows you to keep growing. So let's jump into the episode. Ben, thanks for hanging out, man.
Glad to do it.
So I'd love to, I think most of our listeners, financial advisors, business owners, probably don't get to get inside the head of a professional golfer. So I'd love to unpack mindset, thinking. I know we have some mutual friends, and the term I heard that I loved was swing thoughts. Mm-hmm. Would you kind of define that for us and give us some backstory?
Yeah, so I think swing thoughts, like you'll go through a lot of times. I'll see my coach maybe once or twice a week, and we'll work for between 1 and 2 hours, and then at the end of it, I'll just take a little video of either me relaying what we learned and how we learned it, or a video of my coach doing the same thing. And so it's like, okay, so based on all that information, I need to do these 3 things. And so it's like, okay, I need to, line the club up more at the top, need to squeeze the elbows more in transition, and then I need to rotate the chest more later in the downswing to get the club to go more around me, something like that. Those are, and so it's just like, all right, what's my takeaway? What are my swing thoughts that are going to implement what I want to, so that I can get better, so I can improve?
Is it usually 3, or is it like you can only really do 1 or 2 at a time? So I'm sure there's like how many mechanics in a swing?
Yeah, I mean, the swing lasts about a second. So, and if it's a downswing thought, you got about a quarter of a second. So, but like when I'm training, I have a lot. I'll have probably 3 to 5. And then when I'm playing, ideally, you would like to have 1. But life doesn't always work out that way. And sometimes you need more to accomplish what you want to.
So as when you think about mindset, I know kind of for a lot of business owners in my story, it's like it's gotten better over time. I've gained awareness, learned to coach myself better, but like I don't think I'm ever going to solve it. So golf being maybe one of the highest pressure in the moment sports, is that something you just had? Is it something you're like, I've dialed it in, but it's a constant work? How'd you coach us up on that?
It's something you have to be so intentional about. I was just in the golf studio last night late with my son, and he wants to be a professional golfer, and he's 16, and he's, goes out, and he got to play yesterday with Bubba Watson and his family, and he's excited about that, and he goes out and shoots 4 under on the front 9, and is playing really nice golf, and then doesn't play well on the back 9, and that's kind of been his habit. And I said, buddy, you have to, the same way you work on your putting, the same way you intentionally film your putting, the same way you log your putts into an app to know where your misses are and where your tendencies are, whether it's a misread, too much speed, whatever it is, and you get that feedback, you still you have to be that way with mindset. And so I said, and he feels like late in rounds, or when like a bunch of people are on the first tee, he forgets his swing thoughts, or on a pressure chip or something, he forgets and just swings. And I'm like, that's because you haven't trained, and you always fall to the level of your training. And so it has to be like you in order to, in that most difficult moment, to perform at the highest level. And so I told him a story about a tournament I played in Malaysia. It was 2010. I had a really good year. I'd already won that year. And there was this new PGA Tour event in Malaysia. And it's a long trip, but it was a really good field. And my manager said, I think we should go, but I don't think we should see the sights. I don't think we should go look around. I don't think we should do anything. I think we should go over there with our briefcase and make it a business trip. And so that long flight over there, all leading up to the tournament, I was doing mental rehearsals of it's like me to make this clutch putt. It's like me to perform under pressure. And so I started just imprinting how I wanted to feel when I was over a putt. I started to imprint how I wanted to feel when I got to a really tight hole and there's water on the right and trouble on the left, how I wanted to feel when I went through that swing. And there's a preload, like what happens before the shot. We're designing the shot, picking a target, understanding the wind, stepping in, and then it's the action phase, which is important. Obviously, this is, you want your mind to quiet. You want to be able to hit the shot with a quiet mind. And then there's the after the shot. And most people might do the first two, but then they don't do the reload, we call it. And that is to whatever happens. Let's say you hit a bad shot and it goes in the water. Well, what you do after the shot actually affects every shot the rest of the day. And so if a lot of people will be like, oh man, it was just such a bad shot. And so they're walking down the fairway like, I can't believe I just hit it in the water. Mm. Well, so the imprint that's going across your mind over and over again is you just hit it in the water. You just made a big mistake. But if you reload properly, you think to yourself, okay, what's the correction? You likely know I left the club face open. I swung the path too much to the left. I made it curve to the right. Whatever it is, you likely know through your training, and you go, oh, I didn't turn around the handle quite enough. Club face approached the ball late, open, ball went to the right. And so then you rehearse like, okay, I need to turn around the handle a little more, square it up a little earlier so that I can just rotate through and don't have to worry about the club face to keep the ball more to the left side. And you rehearse that a couple times, and then it becomes more like you to, in the next moment, when you get a shot like that, when there's water down the right side, it's a pressure shot, you're late in the tournament, it's like you to fall to the level of your training and to make the correction and do the right thing. And so I was telling him about this moment in Malaysia where we went over there. We literally were so focused on our mental program. We were not focused on results. We know results will follow process eventually, not always immediately, but just so dedicated to my process. Get to the last hole, 72nd hole of the tournament, and I'm tied with Luke Donald, and I've got a 20-foot putt to win the tournament. And I was telling Brady,
like, you're tied right now, and you're putting
tied.
He's
last
hole.
He's done. I'm the last group on the golf course. I got a 20-footer. If I miss it and I 2-putt, we go into a playoff. If I 3-putt, I lose the tournament. And if I make it, I make $1 million and I win the tournament, and we go home.
Yeah.
And I've been just rehearsing so much that week, and I get over the putt. And I tell Brady, I said, do you know what I thought about in that moment? And he's like, I'm going to bury this thing. I said, no. And he's like, get the speed right. I'm like, no. I'm like, a little better than that. And he's like, what? And I'm like, nothing. Mm-hmm. I just stood up over the ball. It became quiet, and I just made my stroke. And I looked up, and with about the last 10 feet of that 20-footer to go, I knew it was right in the middle of the hole because I had just quieted my mind. And fortunately, I'd hit a perfect putt, and I got to watch and enjoy that ball drop. And electricity came over my body, goosebumps and fist pumps, and my agent and my caddy and my friends run out and we hug because we know what we'd done. We had trained all week for all those moments coming down the stretch, right? We had trained my mind. I spent hours and hours, sorry, I can't go out to dinner tonight, because I was back in my room rehearsing exactly the way I wanted to feel, running my process as clean, as good as I could. And so I'm teaching my son like, hey, look, it's not an accident. To answer your question, Sten, it's not an accident. You have to be prepared for the moment. So it's like you, when you are in the moment, to execute.
Is that the thing that separates average from great golfers? Because a lot of people can swing a club. There's athletes that technically can do all the things you need to do. With the guys you hang out with, is that the thing?
Well, I think in becoming a great athlete, obviously people are good at different things. Some people, if it's golf, some people have this really high club head speed and it's just such an asset. Some people are incredible putters. It's such an asset. Some people are these incredible iron players. Tiger Woods, the greatest iron player that's ever lived. That's how he did it. He hit his 5 irons to 15 feet as opposed to everyone else is hitting them to 40 feet from the hole. So he could gain strokes on the field, but he also had the mindset, and so there's a number of different things obviously that go into it, and you can't take anything off. You can't really be bad at anything, but to be elite, certainly you have to have a mind that says, is it like me to win the Masters, right? Is it like me to, because you can't outperform your self-image, right? Yeah. And so certainly Tiger, there's a story of he was newly married in the mid 2000s, maybe 2008, 10, and his wife threw a party for him after he won Bay Hill, which is right down the road from his house in Orlando at the time. And all these people are at his house, and he walks in and he walks over and he goes, "What's this?" And she's like, "Congratulations, babe. That was incredible. You made that putt, in the tournament." And he said, "Send him home. I'm supposed to win."
Oh, geez.
And it's harsh, but it's like, he's like, that's not even close to what I'm going to do this year. You know what I mean? He's like, I'm supposed to win. I'm supposed to, that's exactly what I'm supposed to do. You know what I mean? His mindset was, his self-image was, that's what I do. That's who I am, and so he had an advantage. He believed he was going to win. Every time he teed it up, he believed he was going to win.
What would you say to, I know you have a podcast and you do some other stuff. You're interacting with a lot of people. If you're speaking to business owners, a lot of financial advisors listening to this, like what is a framework or here's how you gain awareness of your mindset? Because I think a lot of people would say, yeah, I think I'm good, but maybe not at an elite level. How would you coach them up if somebody came to you and was like, I want to get better. I feel like I'm stuck. Mm-hmm. What's their first step?
Yeah, well, I can't speak exactly to the financial advisor because I don't know that world well, but I can speak to the golf world. And I would say this: if you ask someone in the golf world, what percentage of golf is mental, they would answer, what would you say?
50%.
Some people, some people say 90%, some people say 10%, some people say 50%. It's all over the board, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know the answer. I mean, you certainly have to do massive amounts of training and have to have good coaching and all that to be able to, make good swings and understand the game and what shots when and all that. But are you spending whatever percentage of time you say that much time training that of the proportion of your time you're spending training? You know what I mean? So, that's the thing. Like, all right, what does it look like to train mindset? What does it look like to be ready for the moment? What does it look like, in the financial world to be ready when you have the putt to win the tournament, when you have the conversation to close the deal, when you are making these decisions, right? Like, have you taken in all the data and then, all right, it's time to make the decision. Whatever it is, right? Have we trained? Are we ready? Is it like me to make, the right call in this moment?
Yeah. Golf seems like a lonely sport in a way. I think of like entrepreneurs, it's like only people that are in it kind of get it. Are you with people all the time though? You sound like you have a team. Are golfers pretty generous with their time and sharing ideas? I feel like whenever I find an entrepreneur that's by themselves, they're usually a little more frustrated than everybody else. It feels like they're solving the problems that everybody else have kind of already solved. And if you can get coaching and accountability, it's like that feels like a huge catalyst in the business world.
Yeah. Yeah.
Does it look like that in golf too?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, when I'm isolated with golf and I don't feel like, people are behind me pushing or on my team, yeah, I just, um, you get this low grade level of frustration and depression about like, why am I doing this and all that. But when you have a team behind you, it feels like you're empowered to go and to work and to train and to, um, and when you can achieve clarity with that training, you just feel carried along. And so for me, at the end of every year, I would have my team, when I was playing really high level golf, in my 20s and 30s and early 40s. And it was my manager, my swing coach, my short game coach, my pastor, my caddy. And they would all, and my trainer get into a room. And we'd meet in a hotel get like a nice conference room, get great food, and get everyone together. And I say, all right, everyone's got an hour. So, and these three guys are presenting the first day, these three guys are presenting the second day, and then we would just go play golf and do fun things in between. But I would set the stage like, hey, you have an hour. You can grab any stat you want. And after every round throughout the course of the year, I talked about three things. And this would probably be great for some of the guys listening. At the end of every day, you should ask yourself three questions. What did I do well? What did I learn? And what am I going to do about what I learned? And so those questions I would, after every round of golf I played on tour that entire year, I would do a voice audio on my iPhone and I would answer those three questions. What did I do well today? Man, I made some clutch 8-footers for par. And there was a couple awkward bunker shots, long bunker shots that I had trained. I used my 9-iron. It was 45 yards, whatever. And I hit him to 10 feet and made the putt. I got the ball up and down because we had trained and knew my bunker numbers with lob wedge, sand wedge, pitching wedge, 9-iron, etc. Something like that. What did I learn? I learned that I'm hitting the ball a little bit heavy with my long irons and I don't understand why. So I filmed it and it's going out to my two coaches, today. What am I going to do about what I learned? I think I might need to, have my chest move a little more down and forward early in the downswing, but I don't know. And so I'm waiting for the response to that. As soon as I do that, I will either hit more balls tonight or I'll wait till tomorrow morning to make that correction. So all of a sudden I'm solution oriented. So, what I do well, what I learned, what am I going to do about what I learned? Answer that. That's in an audio, and that's every team member has that throughout the course of the year, and they have all the stats on PJ Tour. They get an hour to present, and when they present, I'm like, listen, the reason why you're here is because I want to get better. And so, one day we walk out, we're in a break, and my short game guy goes, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah, James, what do you mean?" And he says, "You're getting killed in there." And I said, "And I love it."
Nice.
Because I want to get better. I'm like, that's why we're all here. And out of those team meetings came most of my wins. Why? Because I had this team behind me. I had so much clarity. We weren't wondering if we should be doing this, wondering if we should be chasing that. It was like my caddy and I had an assignment, and it was like, we need to spend 15 minutes doing this drill. Then we need to do this because we want it to affect that. We need to do this much mental reps, and we need to do it in this category. We need to train technique in this area. It was like no waste of time. And then all of a sudden we get in the tournament and we just feel commissioned, deployed, and ready, So it was like having that team is so important. And then I'm always walking with, a close friend or a pastor friend and processing like what the Lord is teaching me in those moments and how he's training me up and using all these things together to work for good in some way, even the hard things, and so, yeah, I love growth. And and when I have that team around me, it's so fun to like go, wow, I'm not where I want to be, but I'm not where I was.
Nice. Has your appetite for that grown as you've seen the process work? Was there a point in your 20s where you were resistant to growth and change? You took it a little more personal? Or is that something somehow early on you just said, bring it on?
That's a great question. And I would say my appetite has definitely grown for that. And I definitely, as you said, took it personal. And I would, even in marriage, I would be offended when my wife would point something out where, hey, you know, I don't think you should have said that, or maybe done it this way, whatever. And I would take it as an attack. And the Lord's helped soften my heart and humble me and like, hey, like that was meant for good. And like, okay, like what would that look like if I, you know, um, understand that and make a correction essentially and grow from it. So yeah, and now I crave it. I feel like, if I'm not getting that feedback, I'm like, I'm asking for like, hey, what do you think about this? Like,
have you run into the Tin Man group here in Franklin? Jeff Schulte or them? I've been part of that for a couple of years. It's kind of that personal, emotional work, which is wild that, all of it's good. Growing up, for me, it was like there's good feelings and bad feelings versus like, no, I can feel a lot in one day. And realizing sometimes the people's feedback to you is more based in their story. And it's like responding with curiosity is way better. And yeah, my story was, if you give me feedback, you're attacking me personally. And yeah, I think there's a sense of humility in top advisors, business owners, athletes that I know. They all love feedback, accept it. I mean, there's some people reach a high level without doing that, but I feel like the Lord will bring us there, as soon as we stop fighting it, that,
right.
Yeah, it's just not about us and everything's not an attack. But so much of it is other people's story. And can we sit in that with them, even if it's uncomfortable? And marriage helps you find that for sure.
Yeah. It's amazing to be in some of those conversations with people you love, and a lot of times it's just about them sharing something, and then you just maybe, if you see willingness to peel back the next layer, like, wow, tell me more about that. Even in marriage, my latest is like, don't fix this. Say, can you tell me more about that? I could see how you would feel that way. Like validation, and then like a safe place to like go, tell me more about that. And then just like, I want to fix it so bad. I want, and I'm like, and I didn't realize when I'm trying to fix my wife, like I'm kind of like shaming her, like, you shouldn't feel that way. That's crazy. That's so dumb you feel that way. But really I'm just trying to protect myself. Like, no, I'm doing better than I am, right?
Yeah, or your feelings are making me feel something. I need you to stop.
Yeah, exactly.
I cannot handle what is happening right now.
Right. It's so true.
Well, I love this, brother. I appreciate you. So everybody listening, obviously there's very direct correlations. Ben does this at a very high level. But I hear you saying, mindset work is huge. I mean, even at the level you achieved, you still had coaching, still had, a team, getting feedback all the time. And there's a lot of average advisors and business owners in the world. And I do think they come from all walks of life. I don't think you have to be born in a certain place, in a certain family to be successful, but there are these common themes. And so for every advisor, business owner listening, like lean into that. It's mindset, it's emotional work. It is the blocking and tackling. I think you need to be disciplined. Like nothing of what we're talking about is you get to bypass the hard stuff and the challenges. But if you do want to level up and have people look and say like, man, you're doing something different. It's thinking, it's mindset, it's emotional work. And I think that'll be a game changer.
I think it like so often, like right now I'm going through this like terrible swing change that's just driving me crazy. And I'm just standing on the range yesterday, taking a break. And I'm like, the only way is through. I can't go around this. Like if I want to achieve, really high level golf when I hit Champions Tour in 10 months, like I need, in order for my iron play to be the way I want it to be able to, gain strokes with my irons. I'm like, I have to go through this. And I'm like, I don't know when I'm going to make it through it, but today I'm going to just chip away at it. But it's through,
precipitates a
unfortunately.
swing change in your world? Because it feels like if you do something that's working, don't change it.
Yeah. Well, I got it. I started chasing speed, and then when I started chasing club head speed, I gained it, but I did it with basically separating my elbows at the top to make my swing longer. And when that happens, the club steepens in transition. It's a nerdy golf thing, but when the arms steepen, the wrists extends, and all of a sudden I got a club coming in steep. And then in order to rectify a steep club late, I have to shallow it. And the way people generally do it is with right bend. And right bend for an iron player, when you move your low point back, you start hitting the ball micro heavy, and you start running the club out to the right late, you hit overdraws. And so it's just like, it's literally a mess. And I didn't see it happening, and I was gaining all this speed, but I didn't realize at what cost. And now it's like, I've got to, rewire how my arm structure, my wrist angles, all this stuff, whatever. And man, I can do it at like 50% speed. And so I just train and I train hitting a 7-iron like 120 yards. I'm like, this stinks. I want to hit it 185 in the air. Yeah. I mean, it's important, but not at the expense of everything else. So anyway, So the through, you know what I mean? Like, we have to like get the courage to go through a lot of these things, not around them.
Yeah, I do feel, and I can relate to different parts of my life where it's like, man, Lord, if there's an easier way, like, show me the shortcut here. Like, now obviously that, we do learn the most when it's the most challenging. We come out changed, revealed. I think part of it is like, it is through, but at times, like, can you sit in it? Can you sit in the uncertainty? Can you sit in the,
right?
And I don't know, in your story, if there's been a season where you're like, Lord, why isn't this moving? Like, why are things not changing? I'm willing to go through it, but like, can you speed this thing up?
Yeah, no, my wife and I had a really tough time talking golf when golf got bad. And, I just wanted to like talk about it and fix it, and then fix her and fix me. And then we could just, I could feel less pressure on the golf course and all that. And, my pastor friend, had us read Counterfeit Gods by Tim Keller, together. And then we'd come together after every chapter, and we started like confessing our idols to each other.
Oh, wow.
And it wasn't golf. It was kind of what golf allowed us and offered us. And when we realized that we were serving golf that way, it was like, oh, this is why golf is toxic when we talk about it and we try to constructively work through it and all that. And man, the Lord has done such a work in that area by us just confessing our idols to each other. And now we just show each other so much more grace. Tim Keller's, he's had 2 life-changing books for me for sure. Prodigal God, story of the prodigal son. Just, I didn't saw myself in the older son, so much, just rocked my world. And then, Counterfeit Gods was big too.
Well, bro, we'll wrap it up, but I appreciate you, man. This was helpful. We'll have some resources we put together for everybody listening. Hopefully we'll get you back on sometime.
Yeah. Enjoyed it. Thanks, Dan. See you, bud.